A 4-chord song typically uses 4 chords in 4 measures and just loops that indefinitely, and that's the entire song. Of course, the melody will keep changing and lyrics will keep changing, but basically in terms of harmony, in terms of accompaniment, you just have these 4 chords. Famously, there was the Axis of Awesome who wrote the 4-chord song like comedy piece, where they did more than 60 songs that all used these chords and mashed them all together in some huge mashup medley kind of thing. You don't even need 4 chords, you can use 2 chords like Alicia Keys' Falling. I'm falling in and out of love with you. That's just E minor 7 and B minor 7. And the entire song is just those 2 chords. That's it. So you don't need a lot of chords to make a great song. Now, if you're repeating 4 chords in 4 measures, we don't have to stick to that structure. But for now, let's pretend that's what we're doing. The first chord will invariably be more important than the other 3, because that's the chord the whole thing starts on. And this helps it give this feeling of being a tonic, though it doesn't have to be a tonic at all, but if you place a tonic there, it's going to be very strongly confirmed just by the structure, because we're always starting there. So let's take the key of C, we're going to play C, G, A minor, F. And we're going here, because I start on C, it's going to sound like the start of the chord progression, right? And so when I end up back on C, it's going to just sound perfectly resolved. There's nowhere we need to go. Let's take the same chords, but now we start on F, and it's going to sound different, and you evaluate for yourself what it sounds like. In my opinion, this does not sound completely resolved, but the chord does sound somewhat important, because this is where the progression is starting, where the loop is starting. And so what happens is you get this interplay between one chord being made important structurally by making it the first of this loop of 4, but the same chord also not being the tonic, therefore having some tension. In this case it was the 4 chord, it sounds like a subdominant, and because we started there, the chord progression doesn't ever quite seem to finish. So, in the No Woman No Cry chord progression, when it's all done and said, it sounds finished. And so every 4 measures, it's gonna sound finished. Not in that exact song, because the chords change at some point, but whatever. If you're gonna make a song just using these chords, it's gonna sound resolved every 4 measures. However, if we don't start on the 1, but start, for example, on the 4, now, if we repeat this chord progression, it's going to have a bit more momentum, a bit more drive. It keeps moving forward, because even when we start over and the thing starts again, it's not resolved. We still need to go somewhere. But when we finally land on the 1, it's actually the second measure, a very weak measure, because you can divide these 4 measures up the same way you would divide the 4 16th notes within a beat up. So the first one being the most stable one, and the third one being pretty stable as well, and the ones in between being very unstable. So it's just the basic old musical idea of in, out, or up, down, up, down, up, down. This duality. Strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak. So this happens with chords as well. Placing the tonic on the 2nd or the 4th makes it unimportant within the chord progression, meaning the chords that are important are not going to sound as resolved, giving the chord progression a lot more drive and momentum, and just it keeps moving forward and doesn't tire the listener out. However, that's not all, because the starting chord has a very important role to play in determining key and the tonality of the songs. Now, when I'm starting on F, like I did in the example that had momentum, imagine ending the song here. Like, it's not absurd. It doesn't sound as resolved as this one. See, this is more resolved. But again, we were starting on F and we're doing this for the entire song. The listener will have gotten used to that chord being the first chord. So if you finally do end your song on F, it will sound resolved enough because that's what we've gotten used to, but it's not the tonic. So how does that work? Well, if you know about church modes, you know we're actually playing in Lydian. It's not going to be a very overt Lydian sound. It's not that very strong, specific, that sharp 4 Lydian sound, but still the Lydian chord within the key is the one that we keep coming back to. And if you keep doing that for 3 minutes in a row, eventually it's gonna sound like the one. So maybe you know the song Half of My Heart by John Mayer. So the chorus goes like, oh, half of my heart's got a grip on the situation, half of my heart takes time. Half of my heart's got a right mind to tell you that I can't stop loving you. Now comes the post-chorus, not starting on B flat, which we're on now, but we're starting on, let's see. Oh, half of my heart, with half of my heart. So now we started on a different chord and it creates a different sort of feeling. So imagine you have 4 chords. The starting chord being very important and determining the context in which we're going to hear all the other chords. And you could make verse, pre-chorus, chorus and bridge, each with the same 4 chords, but each starting on a different chord. I'm not saying you have to do that, but this would be one way to add a lot more variation and a lot more contrast by using the same 4 chords throughout the entire song. So you don't need to learn more chords, but you also don't need to surprise your listener too much. You can not have too much attention going to the chords, so the attention can stay with the lyrics and the melody, but still your chords can create variation and a different feeling for the verse and for the pre-chorus, different feeling for the pre-chorus and for the chorus, etc. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing this song does is using harmonic pulse in a different way, or using it to create contrast. So at the start of the song we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just about 2 beats per chord, right? So we got 2 chords per measure. That's the harmonic pulse we've got right now. Then we're going to go to the pre-chorus. Then you come crashing in like a reader still. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So now it's 4 beats per chord, or 1 chord per measure. The harmonic pulse changed. It became slower, got more smeared out, making it sound a bit larger as well. It's like the song gains size in the pre-chorus just because the harmonic pulse changes and the chords last a bit longer. And this is one way to create contrast. We've been hearing chords change every 2 beats for the entire song up until this point, right? It's maybe like 30 seconds, but this is the context we have right now. And when the pre-chorus finally starts, suddenly we're not changing when we are expecting change. So it's like, okay, new chord, 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 not a new chord. Now not changing is the surprise, which is kind of weird because it seems uninteresting and bland and unimaginative to not change things, but sometimes it's the most inventive thing you can do. Not changing is a surprise. It's unexpected. Now the final thing that I haven't yet talked about is the emotionality of those chords. Now, a major key has 3 major chords and 3 minor chords. By the way, a minor key has the same thing, and they each also have 1 diminished chord. We're not using that all that much in pop music, so I'm just going to ignore it for now. But we have 3 minor chords and 3 major chords. That means one interesting thing you can do is start on a major chord and then play all minor chords. Or start on a minor chord and then play all major chords. Now why in that way? Because the first chord determines this important bit of context for how we're going to experience the rest of the chords. And if all the other chords have a different emotionality to them, that creates a sort of interesting interplay between tone colors, like sonic qualities. So let me give you an example. Let's say we're in the key of A minor. We're going to use F, G and C. So again, we're still using the same notes, but A minor sounds like a 1. Okay, so I hope you can hear, or I hope you agree with me, that this sounds like a song in a minor key. A sounds like the tonic, right? But all the other chords we're using are major, which means this chord progression does not sound as dark as it could sound in a minor key. You're using the minor tonality and making it a bit lighter by choosing to play only chords that have a lighter sound. Major chords, right? Let's change that up. Key of A minor, but now we're going to play other minor chords as well, just to compare how much darker that can sound. So. Okay, so it's darker, it's a bit more sad maybe, but that's very subjective, but I would certainly describe the sound as darker. Nothing wrong with it, but it's a different kind of mood, a different kind of harmonic background for your melody and lyrics. Let's change it up, playing a major chord first and playing all the minor chords that fit within that key. So let's see if I can make that work. Maybe this. Okay, so starts out very fresh and light, immediately going to just about the darkest minor sound we have in the key, although the 6th chord is just as fine as well. And what I find interesting here is the 2 chord going back to 1. It doesn't sound as resolved as, say, the 5 chord going back to 1, but 2 going back to 1 still has a certain tension and release to it. However, all of this, the emotionality of those chords and how you can use them, and this little tip of using different chords for the first one and for the others, that's just a device you can play around with. But think about the emotionality of chords as is. Which chords do you even want in those 4 chords that you're going to use for your progression? Because you can choose between 6, meaning the color of the whole thing can change depending on which chords you're going to put in and which you're not going to put in. And then you can also think about which of those chords might I want to save up in order to use as a starting chord in the chorus, bridge, pre-chorus, whatever. So there's the starting chord, that's a very important one. Then there's the order of chords that you can change. Of course, when you're changing the starting chord, that happens already. But even if you're not changing the starting chord, changing the order means you're going to get a different sort of progression, which can still help create contrast between a verse and a pre-chorus or any other 2 sections. And then the very important one, harmonic pulse. Think about how often you're changing chords. And even if you're doing all of this, your song is not gonna sound amazing unless your melody is fixed, unless you got a good melody. Because if the chords can't captivate the listener, can't grab his attention and draw him in and keep him in, then your melody better be really good. And if you want to make a good melody, maybe you can check this video out, see for yourself if you like it or not, but it can help you a lot with coming up with better melodies. So, this is it. See you guys next time.